Hey, and welcome to the Short Stuff. I'm Josh. There's Chuck. This is Short Stuff, as I said, and that means we're going to start now to talk about Humpty Hump. Do the Humpty Hump. Dumpty.
R.I.P.
What?
He passed away recently.
I definitely did not know that. No, that's sad.
Well, Shock G, is that right?
I thought his name was Humpty.
It's not Humpty. Yeah, I mean, I think he died just like within the past couple of months, even.
Wow.
Yeah, he died in April.
Man, that is very sad.
Yeah, and I got to say too, just very quickly, that's a great song, but Digital Underground was awesome. Like,
yeah,
that was their big MTV hit, but it was kind of jokey and fun, but they were really, really good.
Yeah, he was like on this one song, I should say track, I guess, to sound hip, with a rapper named Murs called Risky Business. And like you get a really good view of what like Humpty was all about. It's pretty cool. So
yeah.
If you liked the Humpty dance and you want to learn more, I would start there.
R.I.P. Shock G. So,
Humpty Dumpty. Was not expecting that.
Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Do you need a minute? Or are you good?
You just go on. I'll gather myself while you're talking.
Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty together again. And the whole point of this episode is to sort of talk about why do we think this thing is an egg when it doesn't say it's an egg anywhere.
Right.
And what are some of the theories about how this whole thing came about to begin with?
Well, supposedly, and I found this very confusing in the article, the rhyme you just said is actually a riddle. It's meant to be a riddle, and somewhere along the way, the riddle was answered for us, and now we don't even think of this as a riddle, but
Right.
That's one thing to bear in mind. When the nursery rhyme about Humpty Dumpty first came out, it was meant to, apparently there was some line like, what is it? And you were supposed to go, an egg. And then that was the delight that you found in it.
Yeah, and it's also something that's been rewritten in different forms over the years. I think the first time the rhyme itself was in a book was in 1797 in Juvenile Amusement by Samuel Arnold. And the third line, instead of all the king's horses and all the king's men, it said 80 men and 80 more. So all of a sudden it's not rhyming, right?
Unless it's 80 men and 80 more couldn't help get Humpty restored or something like that.
Sure.
That's what I'm going with.
I like that.
But the first rhyme, did you say it was back in 1797 when it first appeared?
Yeah.
And so from the get-go, I think everybody was like, what is everybody talking about here? Well, there's got to be something to this. So people started thinking that there was more to the Humpty nursery rhyme because it is so bizarre. Like, it gives you almost no context whatsoever.
It's really dumb.
It's a little dumb. Not a lot happens, and the thing that does happen is very unsatisfying.
Very.
So I think people, after the people who understood what this was all about had died off and failed to pass along what they meant, those people started wondering exactly what was behind all this. And so some theories started developing.
Yeah, one of it is that Humpty Dumpty was supposed to be Richard III, King of England. In Shakespeare, about Richard III, he's depicted as a poisonous humpback toad. And
that's basically how history came to see him, thanks to Shakespeare's depiction.
Right. But King Richard was only in office, ruled for a couple of years, about 26 months, and supposedly, fought for the common man and was against, corruption and bribery and enacted a bunch of laws to fight that stuff. So not fair to King Richard.
No, and for some reason, some little part of my brain is being tickled right now. Like, we talked about King Richard as if he was...
Did.
And I think was there a Robin Hood episode? Isn't King Richard like the bad guy in that?
Maybe.
Like he was like just a lion who just wanted his pudding or something weird like that. I don't remember. But yeah, apparently he wasn't a bad king, but it was basically Shakespeare who did that. But the point is Richard III was the last English king to die in battle. He died at the Battle of Bosworth. Big
Bosley.
Difference. Yeah. I've been watching a lot of Charlie's Angels lately, and I wanted to say Bosley at first.
Are you really watching a lot of Charlie's Angels?
Yeah. Remember they keep re-showing that one where Sammy Davis Jr. plays
Oh,
two
right.
versions of himself.
That got you hooked.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, King Richard had a horse named Wall and supposedly fell off of the horse and was bludgeoned. So, fell off, sat on a wall and fell off the wall. So that's sort of where that connection comes in.
Couldn't be saved. All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put him back together again. So
couldn't do it.
This is where my money is. I just want everyone to know that is where that's what I think Humpty Dumpty is all about.
All right. Well, let's take our break and we'll come back and talk about Lewis Carroll kind of gumming up the works and some other theories right after this.
All right, Chuck, so 1797 is where it first starts. We see him again a few years later in a book called Mother Goose's Melody from 1803, right?
Yeah, and that one was like a little tubby kid because the last line is couldn't set Humpty up again. I guess just couldn't get him upright. Kind
of like an Augustus Gloop type character.
Yeah, and supposedly the British satire Punch, the weekly magazine, said that Humpty was a symbol for Cardinal Wolsey, and other people said that might be right too. So that's another theory. That
one to me. So Cardinal Wolsey was the guy who couldn't get a divorce from the Pope for Henry VIII. So he kind of went down in infamy as not a great advisor or helper to the king.
Right.
That's a little politically nuanced for me because remember, this is a nursery rhyme. So I don't see kids like singing a nursery rhyme about, Cardinal Wolsey falling from favor with Henry VIII. I do see them singing a nursery rhyme about the death of King Richard, though.
Yeah, I'm with you so far.
I mean, adults don't say like, hey, kids, I got a nursery rhyme for you. Here it is. Don't adults just like write down nursery rhymes that they hear kids saying, and then that's how they become widespread and popularized, but they're ultimately created by kids?
I think that's a deal.
So, yeah, all the more reason I got my money on Richard III.
All right. Well, then Lewis Carroll comes in through Through the Looking Glass in 1871, one of the more spectacularly, seemingly drug-fueled tomes to ever be written. And the Eggman has a chapter in this dedicated to him, wherein Alice says she clearly saw that it was Humpty Dumpty himself. It can't be anybody else. I'm as certain of it as if his name were written all over his face.
I know, pretty great.
And, if you've ever read that or even parts of it, it's really out there. So the idea of a walking, talking egg person, human hybrid is not like far off the mark.
Right. And so like that was the whole thing where like you and me and everybody else breathing today thinks of Humpty Dumpty as an egg. Thanks to that book, thanks to that chapter on him, thanks to the fact that he was just out and out an egg. There was no riddle at this point any longer. It was just Humpty Dumpty is an egg. And the illustrator for that first edition, John Tenniel, his illustration of Humpty Dumpty as like an egg with pants on and a face and, arms and legs and all that stuff. That's where like the idea of Humpty Dumpty that we have today finds its roots almost, visually and through our imagination from that book.
That's right. That's the first time it was like, look, it's definitely an egg.
Let's just cut to the chase. Face it.
Cut to the chase. And there was also that was printed differently in that book too. The actual rhyme, the final line is couldn't put Humpty Dumpty in his place again. So there wasn't even an egg breaking in that version,
which I found kind of sweet. Nice.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
So there's one more theory. There's a few more theories. Some are literally not even worth mentioning. But there's an idea that a Humpty Dumpty was actually the name of a drink.
Right. And this is this doesn't sound good to me, but you never know. In the old, does this sound good to you?
Yes.
So, beer boiled with brandy.
Okay, not the boiled part. Did you check out the recipe that was revived by bartenders today?
Oh, you mean The modern version.
Yes.
No, I'm sure they made that taste good.
Yeah, okay.
I'm talking about the original version, ale boiled with brandy, was called, and this was the first time that the rhyme wasn't there, but the words Humpty Dumpty ever appeared in print was in 1690 in a slang dictionary, and it was ale boiled with brandy. And the connection there is that really strong beer was called Hum. And so Humpty Dumpty, Hum, there you have it.
So, I mean, I feel like we should give the recipe for the Humpty Dumpty, don't you?
Sure.
And I think it sounds delicious. So you take 1 ounce of brandy, 1.5 ounces of ale. I would go with the pale ale if I were you. A quarter ounce of lemon juice, a dash of Angostura, and you put it in a mixing glass with some ice, stir 15 seconds, and strain into a glass without the ice, garnish with the lemon peel, and raise a glass to your friend Humpty Dumpty. And Shock G, apparently.
That's a great callback.
You got anything else?
For a great MC. I got nothing else.
Well, since Chuck said he has nothing else, I can attest I have nothing else. That means we have nothing else to share with you in this episode of Short Stuff, which means Short Stuff is out.
Stuff You Should Know is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.